The night had settled over New York like a blanket stitched in smoke and neon. The drizzle turned every street lamp into a blur, every puddle a mirror to the restless city above. The sound of tires hissing on wet asphalt echoed like whispers of secrets the city kept hidden. Somewhere in this sea of indifference, a girl named Lily clutched her backpack tighter, walking home through a street she never wished to take. Lily was 15, a quiet teenager who lived in the shadows of everything: her family's hardships, her classmates' chatter, her own unspoken fears. She had taken a shortcut through Grover Street, a narrow lane infamous for its broken lights and lingering eyes. It was supposed to save her 10 minutes, but sometimes 10 minutes cost more than anyone imagined. Because on this night, in that dark street, two men stepped out from the shadows. They weren't stumbling strangers. They were wolves. One grinned with gold teeth flashing under the faint glow, while the other played with a knife, spinning it like a toy. "Where you going, kid?" the gold-toothed man drawled, blocking her way. Lily froze. The weight of fear pressed down on her lungs. Seconds stretched, her pulse roaring in her ears. She wanted to run, scream, anything, but her voice betrayed her. The men closed in, laughs bouncing in the alley. The knife glinted. Then it happened, the sound sharp as lightning. Thwip! A streak tore the night sky, followed by a blur of red and blue diving down from above. Both men jolted as a figure landed between them and the girl with a thud that reverberated in the brick walls. Spider-Man. His masked lenses narrowed, his shoulders squared, his voice steady but cutting through the rain-tinged air. Wrong street, wrong target, wrong night, fellas. The robbers blinked, suddenly stripped of their bravado. The one with the knife lunged, desperate. Spider-Man moved like water, dodging, spinning, and in a flash, webs shot from his wrists. The knife was ripped away. The man slammed against a wall, bound tight in shimmering silk. His partner turned to run, but a web line whistled through the air, yanking him by the ankle, flipping him onto the concrete. It was over in less than 15 seconds. Spider-Man turned, the storm of action dissolving into quiet calm, and crouched low to meet the eyes of the shaking girl. His voice softened, carrying warmth beneath the mask. "You okay? Did they hurt you?" Lily shook her head, still trembling but unable to speak. Her eyes widened as tears welled. The shock, the fear, and something else. Relief. And in that fragile moment, under the dim glow of a broken street lamp, she realized something. Her life had just been saved by a man the tabloids called reckless, a menace, even dangerous. But to her, right now, he was nothing less than a miracle. Spider-Man offered her a hand. Lily hesitated, then placed her small hand in his gloved one. "Come on," he said gently. "Let's get you out of here." They walked together down the rain-slick alley, the webs of the restrained criminals swaying like eerie pendulums in the night wind. Police sirens wailed faintly in the distance, drawn inevitably by the chaos Spider-Man always seemed to leave behind. "You didn't have to," she stammered. "Sure I did," he interrupted, his voice light but sincere. "Everyone deserves to get home safe. Even shortcuts should be safe. Especially for you, Lily." Her breath caught. How do you know my name?" Spider-Man chuckled. "I keep my eyes open. Besides, you dropped your student ID back there." He handed her the card he'd quietly snatched from the wet ground. Lily flushed, embarrassed and oddly comforted at the same time. For the first few blocks, neither spoke much. Lily stole glances at him, his suit damp from rain, its colors glowing faintly under the street lamps. He looked untouchable, like the posters on the murals, and yet his voice grounded him in something achingly human. Finally, she whispered, "Do you ever get scared?" The question stopped him mid-step. He tilted his head, considering. "All the time," he admitted softly. "Every night I go out, fear walks with me. But the trick is, you don't let fear decide for you. You decide, even if your knees won't stop shaking. That's bravery." Her eyes glistened, emotions storming inside her. She had always thought heroes were fearless, built of steel. But Spider-Man had just confessed to something no headline would ever print. That beneath the mask was fear, carried like a shadow, and still he chose to stand tall. At that moment, Lily realized this night wasn't just about survival. It would become the night she carried with her forever. The night not only when Spider-Man saved her, but the night when he taught her what it meant to face life with trembling knees and steady resolve. The distant sirens grew louder until blue and red lights painted the wet bricks around them. Spider-Man stopped at the corner, before the main road, and gently pulled Lily aside into the shelter of a recessed doorway. "If the police see you here, they'll want reports and statements," he whispered. "I'll handle that. You just need to get home." Lily blinked up at him, raindrops clinging to her lashes. "But shouldn't I tell them what happened?" He shook his head lightly. "They'll figure it out. Trust me. Sometimes the best way to help is to walk away, safe and whole." For a moment she just stood there, torn between listening and doing what she thought was right. But there was something about the steadiness in his voice that calmed her storm. She nodded silently. As the police swept into the alley, Spider-Man melted back into the shadows, like he always did. Lily hurried home, her shoes squeaking, the warmth of his words buzzing in her chest like a secret she had no idea how to carry. When she reached her tiny apartment, her mother was already asleep on the couch, the television still flickering with static. Lily paused, clutching her bag, her heart still racing. She wanted to wake her mom, to tell her she had nearly been taken, to tell her that Spider-Man had saved her life. But the words didn't come. She just pulled a blanket over her mother, then went to her small bedroom. There, under the glow of her desk lamp, she opened her notebook. The words tumbled out almost by themselves. "Fear is real, but it doesn't have to decide for me. Tonight Spider-Man was scared too, and still, he chose." That night, Lily fell asleep with her head on her desk, the notebook still open. For the first time in a long while, her dreams weren't nightmares of being invisible. They were dreams of glowing buildings, swinging lines across the skyline, and bravery that lived even in trembling hands. In the weeks after the robbery, Lily carried herself differently. She didn't suddenly become fearless. Far from it. She still jumped when someone slammed a locker too loud, or when evening shadows stretched far across the street. But there was something new inside her. The memory of that mask, that voice, and those words. She started small. When a younger student dropped their books in the crowded hallway, Lily bent quickly to help, smiling awkwardly. When a teacher asked for volunteers at the food drive, she raised her hand, even though the thought of speaking in front of others made her stomach churn. Each time, she thought of Spider-Man's simple line, "Fear walks with me, but I decide." Her classmates began to notice the small changes, whispering about how Lily suddenly seemed different. She wasn't louder or more popular, but her presence had shifted. She stood a little straighter. Her eyes carried a spark that had been missing before. One evening, as she walked from the library, she caught a glimpse of trouble again. A group of boys cornering a smaller kid. Her body tensed. Her pulse surged. The old Lily would have ducked away, pretended not to see. The new Lily remembered a drizzle-soaked night, a hand pulling her into safety, and the honesty of a hero's voice. She stepped closer, her voice small but firm. "Hey, leave him alone." The boys laughed, muttered something dismissive, and scattered on their own. The smaller kid hurried past with a shy, "Thanks." As Lily walked home, she realized her knees were trembling, her breath ragged, not because she was brave, but because she had been afraid and still acted. That was the lesson she had inherited from Spider-Man's example. But destiny has a way of circling people back together. A month later, as Lily cut through a plaza on her way home, flashing lights erupted from a jewelry shop. Robbers poured out, one clutching a bag stuffed with glittering necklaces. Chaos scattered the pedestrians. Lily stumbled back, her heart wrenching with déjà vu. And then, like the crack of thunder splitting the heavens, thwip! Spider-Man somersaulted off a lamppost, kicking one robber square in the chest, sending him crashing into a trash bin. A second robber raised a gun, but a web yanked it out of his hand before he could blink. People screamed, darted for cover. Lily froze, stunned. Once again, there he was, darting, flipping, disarming. But this time, her fear didn't paralyze her completely. One robber sprinted toward her side of the plaza, desperately trying to flee. Lily's instincts screamed at her to hide, but another instinct sparked instead. Help him. Without thinking, she stuck her leg out at just the right moment. The man tripped, sprawling forward, and within a heartbeat, a web line pinned him to the pavement. Spider-Man glanced her way. For a second, their eyes met through the lenses. The tiniest nod of recognition. "You're getting good at this whole standing up thing," he quipped, before launching himself back into the fray. Her chest burned with pride. She hadn't fought the robber. She hadn't needed to. But in that quick, trembling decision, she had realized she wasn't a helpless shadow anymore. She mattered in the fight too. The battle ended minutes later. Robbers cocooned under police headlights. Spider-Man already gone like a phantom. But Lily didn't walk away the same girl who had entered that plaza. She walked away with shaking hands, wobbly knees, and a heart that now carried proof she could step into the light when it mattered. Tonight, the story wasn't just about Spider-Man saving her. It was about her realizing she could save herself, and maybe, in her own way, help someone else too. Though weeks had passed since the plaza robbery, Lily still replayed Spider-Man's nod in her head. The smallest gesture, yet it filled her with enough warmth to light the darkest days. She had started journaling it all, the night of the alley, his words about fear, the moment she tripped the robber. Her notebook became a secret testimony to her transformation. But New York never let its people sit comfortable for long. Trouble had a rhythm here. It was always just around the corner. One bitter December evening, Lily was at the community library when she suddenly heard frantic voices outside. She rushed to the windows. A van screeched onto the curb. Masked men stormed into the bank across the street. Guns raised, shoving terrified civilians to the ground. The air went cold in her lungs. For a moment she was back there again, a helpless girl in the foggy alley. Fear clawed at her spine, whispering, "Run, hide, you're still small." Then Spider-Man's voice filled her memory. "I'm scared all the time, but fear doesn't decide." She held on to that line like a lifeline. Instead of ducking away, she ran outside. The robbers were corralling hostages near the front entrance. Among them, a child clutching her mother's sleeve, crying silently. Lily's fists balled, her whole body vibrating between terror and defiance. And then, the familiar crack rang out. Thwip! Spider-Man swung in like a bullet through the evening fog, drop-kicking one robber before the man even blinked. Guns slipped from hands, webs whipped through the air. Panic split the crowd into screams, broken glass, fleeing footsteps. But this fight wasn't ending as quickly as others. One robber, larger and quicker, grabbed the child as a shield, pressing a gun to her tiny head. "Back off, Spider-Man, where she's done," he roared. The plaza erupted in a chaos of echoes. Police sirens wailed closer, but not fast enough. Spider-Man froze, crouched low, eyes locked. Every muscle in his body screamed to move, but the risk was too great. And in that sharp stillness, Lily realized she was the only one not frozen. She was closer to the robber than Spider-Man was. Her pulse exploded. Her knees nearly cracked beneath the weight of fear. But she understood now. This was her test. She grabbed a loose metal trash lid from the sidewalk, gripping it so hard her knuckles stunned, and hurled it with every ounce of strength she had. The lid clanged off the robber's shoulder, startling him. For a fraction of a second, he flinched. His aim wavered. That was all Spider-Man needed. Thwip! A line of web lashed out, yanking the gun clear. And in another streak, the robber was slammed flat against the wall, wrapped like a poisonous insect. The child bolted into her mother's arms, sobbing hysterically. Spider-Man's chest heaved as relief swept over him. And then he looked at Lily. She didn't speak immediately. His mask tilted ever so slightly, the lenses narrowing, widening, like he was trying to take in everything she'd just done. Then, finally, he moved toward her. "You," he said, voice low but fierce with admiration. "You kept her alive. Don't ever forget that." Lily trembled, her whole body drenched in adrenaline and terror. I was so scared." He crouched lower, voice softening again. "That's how I know it was real bravery. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Lily. It's choosing anyway. Tonight, you chose." Tears burst down her cheeks. She let them fall because they weren't just fear anymore. They were proof of growth. After the chaos was over, with robbers arrested and the crowd dispersing, Spider-Man found Lily again later that evening. She was sitting alone on the building's fire escape, hugging her knees, her heart still racing from everything. He perched beside her. The city spread below them like glowing veins of light. For a while, he didn't speak, letting the quiet cradle her trembling. The cold wind whistled. Police sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Finally, she whispered, "Why me? Out of all the people in this city, why did you show me that bravery wasn't about strength?" Spider-Man sighed, staring out over the skyline. "Because you looked the way I used to feel. Invisible, small, afraid. And sometimes kids like you, they just need someone to remind them that miracles are human first, not superhuman." Her eyes welled again, but this time with quiet conviction. "Then I'll remind others too." He turned his masked face toward her and gave a slow, proud nod. For him, saving her that night in the alley had been instinct. But watching who she became because of it, that was the real victory. Winter settled heavy on New York, snow weighing on rooftops, holiday lights glowing in every window. The city, despite its chaos, wore a blanket of celebration. But for Lily, this winter wasn't cold anymore. It carried something warm inside her, a fire Spider-Man had unknowingly lit. She wasn't the same girl anymore. Her teachers saw it first. She raised her hand in class, volunteered for group projects, even read aloud without hiding. Her classmates felt it too. When they teased the quiet kid in the back, Lily spoke up, steady and sure. She didn't fight recklessly. She simply stood tall, and that alone was enough to shift the balance. At home, her mother noticed the change, though she didn't know the reason. "You look lighter these days," she murmured one night as Lily helped set the table. And Lily smiled. Not because life had gotten easier, but because she had learned she could face the storm without running anymore. It had been 2 months since the night of the bank robbery. Spider-Man had vanished again into the endless rhythm of the city, chasing crimes that never stopped. Yet Lily sensed he was near sometimes, like shadows moving on rooftops while she walked home, unseen but watchful. But then, one evening, as snowflakes dusted the quiet street by her apartment, she saw the silhouette perched on a lamppost. The famous red and blue, edges glowing under the halo of light. Her chest tightened. This time, instead of waiting for him to vanish, she stepped forward. "Spider-Man!" she called softly. He dropped down smoothly, landing with effortless grace. The lenses of his mask shifted as he looked at her. No chaos around them now. No robbers, just a quiet street and falling snow. Lily's voice wavered, but she pushed through. "You changed me. That night, when you saved me. You told me even heroes are afraid. I didn't understand then, but now I do, and I want you to know, I don't think I'm invisible anymore." Spider-Man tilted his head, and though she couldn't see his face, she swore she felt him smile through the mask. "You were never invisible, Lily. You just needed to see yourself the way the world should have, all along." He crouched, lowering his voice even further. "Promise me something. Promise me you'll carry that forward. There are a lot of kids out there who feel the way you did. Be the one who reminds them they're not invisible either." Lily nodded, eyes bright with tears she refused to hide. "I promise." And then, as always, he was gone. One thwip against the frosted skyline, swinging away into the glowing heart of the city. Lily stood under the falling snow, her breath misting in the winter air, her heart steadier than it had ever felt. She knew she'd probably never see him again, that his face would remain a mystery, that his life would always be lived in shadows. But she didn't need him beside her anymore to feel strong, because Spider-Man's gift hadn't just been saving her from a dangerous robbery. It was showing her that courage was possible even in trembling hands, that fear could walk beside her while she still chose to step forward. Years later, Lily would tell her story, not as the girl Spider-Man once saved, but as the girl who learned she wasn't invisible, who believed she mattered, and used that belief to make others feel the same. This story, dramatized for narrative purposes, is more than a tale about Spider-Man stopping a robbery. It's about what happens when a single act of courage lights a fire in someone else. That bravery is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. So remember, you don't need to wear a mask or swing from rooftops to matter. Sometimes standing up, speaking out, or simply noticing someone who feels invisible is the bravest act you can do. And if you keep that fire alive, you too become part of the web that holds us all together.